allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. I don't think our house has ever been this full on a Tuesday morning.
Once in a while.
Once in a while, yes. All right. First on the agenda, we have approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as communicated?
So moved.
No second?
Second.
Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Next, under new business, we have economic development, and we have the historic demolition for 1014 South Street.
Good morning, John Collier, Economic Development Department. The property owner of 1014 South Street has applied for a permit to demolish the structures at this location. Because the structures on that property are within the St. Mary's National Historic District, a notice to the Historic Preservation Officer of an application for demolition of a historic building has been submitted and is before you for your review and determine whether or not the 60-day waiting period should be upheld or waived. The city's Historic Preservation Officer, Dan Kaiser, has determined that demolition of these structures would adversely affect the historic character of the historic district and would be a loss of an historic resource for the city. Consequently, Mr. Kaiser has recommended that the Board of Works uphold the 60-day waiting period. Just to clarify, the purpose of the 60-day waiting period is to allow time for other options that might help preserve the structure that could be considered. Mike Gibson, the building chairman for the Cathedral of St. Mary's of the Immaculate Conception, is here to address the board or answer any other questions.
Okay, I think at this time I'm going to refer to Mr. Chosnick as far as what the ordinance states and what our...
Under the ordinance and other laws that apply to historic districts as well as other historic buildings, any effort to demolish requires a request in front of the Board of Works, who can only make a determination as to whether or not they can waive the 60-day waiting period. So the only action that this board can do is either waive the 60-day waiting period or uphold the 60-day waiting period. They have no authority to do anything other than that or to stop the demolition. So this is all about whether or not the petitioner must wait 60 days from their application before they can start the demolition. And as Mr. Collier indicated, the purpose of it is to allow other options and discussions to occur before somebody quickly, even though they're the owner and they have property rights, before they can quickly demolish a structure before there's substantial input from the community.
Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and just get this on the table, and then, so do we have a motion to hear the historic demolition permit?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And at this point, I'll open it up for public comment. I do have a few requests. Please try not to repeat what others have already stated, and we need to have your name and address read into the minutes, and I'll limit your comments to 3 minutes. And just to, also, we've had 2 letters in opposition that will be made part of the record for today as well, that were emailed to us.
Do you want the first one to be who John wanted? John had somebody.
Oh,
I mean, he had somebody.
Oh, and then we had another young lady that was at the same letter that I had received. Okay, all right, then we're good then. So, all right, I'll open it up for public comment at this time.
Read into the record.
Will those letters be read into the record?
I think they'll be made, yeah.
We can.
Yeah. I didn't know if you wanted to read, if you wanted to get up and read your letter.
It's not my letter. It's someone who couldn't be here.
Oh, okay, okay. Right, we can do that. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Weller. My address is 7127 North, 775 East. I am also the Vice President of the Wabash Valley Trust for Historic Preservation. We are a local nonprofit historical preservation advocacy group. To begin, I would like to share with you a few documents created by the Wabash Valley Trust stating the historical and architectural significance of this structure.
Thank you.
As well as a copy of the statement that we'll be reading.
Thank you.
I would also like to provide you with another document, this one 95 pages long. It represents all of the signatures on a petition that the Wabash Valley Trust created 4 days ago on change.org, opposing the demolition of this historic structure by the Cathedral of St. Mary's in the Lafayette Diocese.
Thank you.
The Wabash Valley Trust for Historic Preservation strongly opposes the intended demolition of the historic Meyer Rose House at 1014 South Street by the Cathedral of St. Mary's. We urge the members of the Board of Public Works to uphold the required waiting period while alternatives to demolition can be sought, and we ask that St. Mary's Cathedral and the local diocese sit down with the Wabash Valley Trust, as well as other members of the community, to discuss options that could preserve this significant structure. For over 40 years, our organization has promoted the historic sites and structures in our community with the hope that these important cultural resources would be preserved and protected, to be cherished by future generations. In those decades, we have seen the important role that historic preservation has played in the continued revitalization and economic development of our city and our historic downtown. The demolition of this structure would not only represent an irreversible loss to the historic neighborhood in which it sits, but also a loss to the community as a whole. The structure at 1014 South Street is both architecturally and historically significant and worthy of preservation. Constructed in 1884 for local resident Meyer Rose, the structure is a notable example of the Italianate style and demonstrates an extraordinary level of historic integrity, featuring an attendant carriage house and original wrought iron fence that was hand-built on site. The home's original owner, Meyer Rose, was a prominent member of Lafayette's Jewish community and was well known for his generosity and philanthropy. The residence strongly contributes to the St. Mary Historic District, listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2001. Historic homes and buildings are more than lifeless brick and mortar. They are a tangible connection to our past and remind us of those who played an important part in shaping our past and present city. We should feel honored to preserve their legacy, just as we all hope that our contributions to the community will be remembered by those who come after us. The Wabash Valley Trust recognizes that preservation of historic structures often comes with a financial cost. As a not-for-profit organization, St. Mary's Cathedral may qualify for a variety of preservation grants from both state and private sources that could not only significantly defray the costs of preserving this historic home, but could make it far more economically sensible than demolishing the building and replacing it with a new structure. This is an option that our organization would encourage St. Mary's and the local diocese to explore more fully. Of course, historic preservation is not simply an economic issue. In this day and age, it is impossible to ignore the environmental implications of preservation. It is almost always more environmentally friendly to restore, rehabilitate, and reuse historic homes and buildings rather than demolishing them and replacing them with new construction. Historic preservation relies on all of us in the community. It relies on institutions such as St. Mary's and the local diocese to recognize that they hold an important place in preserving the landmarks that make Lafayette a great place to live, work, and worship. Our community loves St. Mary's, and we would like to see this love reflected back into the community by preserving the significant historic structure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
It'd be nice to hear from the petitioner.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, Julie.
I am Julie Ginn. I live at 622 Ferry Street. And I just want to state that there's many other options. There's, as being a commercial real estate agent, I think that there would be many people interested in purchasing the property. St. Mary's has already torn down 3 or 4, at least 3 other structures here recently. And the land's just vacant, sitting empty. I don't know what their plans are. But I think that there are other options for them. And renovation is always the best option, but also selling the property would, it would be very desirable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Walter R. Griffin, 420 Hibiscus Drive, Lafayette, Indiana. I'm a longtime member of St. Mary's Cathedral and been through renovations, and this proposed demolition of 1410 South Street goes against anything that we should do as a parish. I think it'll be a big scar on the community and cause ill will in our community. And I'm firmly against the demolition of this property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Sean Rotar, 608 Wyandotte Avenue, Lafayette. I'm also a parishioner of the Cathedral of St. Mary of the Immaculate Conception, and I'll point out that my comments are mine and not those of the parish or pastor or diocese. With appreciation and respect for those who have helped to shape the decision-making process thus far, and mindful of the many complex factors involved, in good conscience, I must speak against the demolition of this historic structure. I've been assured by many that we view demolition as one option to be used only as a last resort if no other viable options can be found. And I take my fellow parishioners at their word. But I must disagree with the conclusion reached. Demolition of this structure should not be a potential option at all, last resort or otherwise. I agree with the statements already presented here and many that I imagine will be presented in opposition to this step. It would be pointless to repeat those that have been already made. In what limited capacity I have been making and will continue to make these points in whatever internal forum I have available. I hope that the statements that I've heard in recent conversations with those who are making these decisions are true statements. Number one, that we are engaged in a process to determine our next action. And number two, that demolition of this structure is not inevitable, provided that a viable alternative can be found. And I take those statements to be true because I trust in the integrity and the goodwill of those who are making them. To that end, my few comments today are a public plea to my fellow parishioners and to the larger community. Help us. Help us to find a solution that is best for our parish and for our community. It has been announced in our parish that there will be an internal opportunity for more discussion and input, that this truly is the beginning of the conversation. So help us make the end of the conversation, the final decision, an easy one. If public outcry is necessary to help us see what ought to be done and to do it, then let public outcry come. If imaginative and creative solutions from all corners of the community help us to envision an alternate and better future, then let those solutions come. If deliberation, reflection, prayer, financial generosity, ingenuity, selflessness, or perhaps a hero to help us are what is required, then let those things come. Help us to find a solution and avoid what would be, in my opinion, a calamitous mistake that is unworthy of the good we ought to give to our neighbors.
Hello, Kurt Wall, 1815 Underwood Street. I am currently a member of the Lafayette Historic Preservation Commission, where I serve as president for this year. Mr. Chosnick made it very clear of the options the board has here today, so I would state my opinion that I would see that the 60-day waiting period is appropriate. And I would also like to reach out to the owner to supply or offer the help of the Historic Preservation Commission as well as the Wabash Valley Trust to look at other alternatives as we have done in the past with other demolitions around the church. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, I'm Gene Hatke. I live at 7624 East 200 South. Recently moved out of the city, but lived in the city most of my adult life. I've lived in old homes almost my entire adult life. I feel like a lot of my life experiences are coming together in this issue because as a owner of old homes, I've modified several, some of them extensively. As a licensed architect, I have helped other people with their homes, including a extensive renovation of the James Whitcomb Riley boyhood home in Greenfield. I've seen old homes and old buildings modified a great deal, and the challenge, and there are always challenges, I understand the difficulties involved here, but it's those challenges that result in the beauty and the delight of the final product. I'm also a lead AP, which, for anybody who doesn't understand that has to do with green building initiatives. And the saying from that organization is the greenest building is the one that's never built. So there's a lot to be said for not putting yourself in the position to have to build something new. In terms of what wants to happen here, you know, I support the parish in terms of the previous demolitions and the future plans to expand the school, something that I hope happens, and I've always been a strong supporter of the schools. I'm a former parishioner of St. Mary's. I was actually president of their parish council for a while. But if the purpose of this building is to be used as a rectory, we need to understand that there are very few unique requirements for a rectory. I also spent 25 years on the Diocesan Building Commission, and I've seen a few of these come and go. In some cases, parishes have gone out and bought a home in a nearby neighborhood because the priest wants to not have to live where he works, so that, you know, the result here is there are no really specific requirements of a rectory that would make this all that unique in that sense. I think what we're seeing here is a plea to take the easy way out, and I'm not so sure it's valid in this situation. You know, that home speaks too well to the character of the community to lose it. So I hope we can extend the discovery period and find a better solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning. My name is Tommy Kleckner. I'm director of the Western Regional Office for Indiana Landmarks. Indiana Landmarks is a statewide nonprofit historic preservation organization here in Indiana. And within the City of Lafayette's Historic Preservation Ordinance, Indiana Landmarks is an interested party. With the limited decision you have before you, Indiana Landmarks supports the Lafayette Historic Preservation Officer's recommendation that the 60-day wait period be upheld. We also support and join the Wabash Valley Trust for Historic Preservation and the local preservation community in its opposition to the proposed demolition of the historic Rose House. We join and support the Wabash Valley Trust in its request to open dialogue and communication with the leadership of the Cathedral of St. Mary, as well as the Diocese of Lafayette. I can assure you that the statewide preservation community is now watching this situation, waiting to see if the Cathedral of St. Mary and the Diocese of Lafayette will reconsider its proposed action, which would be the complete demolition of a landmark of this community's architectural heritage, and in this case, its Jewish heritage. Or if it will try to proceed as it has in the past in the unfortunate demolition of yet another structure within a National Register Historic District and within the community. We're also watching to see if the City of Lafayette will use the tools it has available to possibly prevent the demolition of this structure and discourage such demolitions of historic structures. The city has those tools available. I hope that the city will consider using those tools. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sunny Miller, 1116 Washington Street, Lafayette. I'm a native of Lafayette, but I've traveled widely following my father's career in the military. Some of that time included living in Germany, and so I observe often with thought the historic Kristallnacht and the great warning that occasion presented, mainly unheeded. Only long after a childhood visit to the concentration camp in Dachau did I learn that my father, a native also of Lafayette, held some animosity toward his Jewish neighbors. And beyond that, I learned that another grandfather in White County was a member of the Ku Klux Klan, and there were no blacks, beautiful brown-skinned Americans living in White County at that time, so the Ku Klux Klan in White County harassed their Catholic neighbors. That bit of historic perspective, I think, is an incredible contrast to what you hear today, which is a community interested in great civility, compassion, and learning from one another beyond differences. I'm so proud of my neighbors for their eloquence, and I guess I wish to add that to the last speaker's comment about the importance of the Jewish heritage. I don't know of historic landmarks in Lafayette that honor our Jewish neighbors and their contributions to our culture. What a wonderful idea that a hero might, or a group of neighbors might come together and create a remembrance of their contributions to our culture. Lastly, I know that we still have some reconciliation to do among our Native American neighbors, and want to recommend the practice of passing a talking stick, which is that everyone present has something to contribute, something of value, a unique perspective that hasn't yet been considered. And I must note that fewer women have yet spoken in this forum, and I invite women to speak up for the sake of our futures. Lastly, in my father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. And like Einstein, I believe that the power of imagination is even more important than knowledge. And we're seeing some great imagination here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name's Rick Bradley. I live at 316 Tinkler Street, so that puts me in the Perrin Avenue area. My concern is more that a lot of these meetings, we tend to look at this as demolishing one structure. But you have enough of these meetings, and suddenly you have no heritage left to demolish. I want to say that I think it's interesting that there's been this issue in other areas. I maybe have not paid attention to it, but I would point out, at least in Highland Park area, for example, there's been at least 3 new buildings put up in what is a historic area. Arguably, those houses don't blend in as well as some of their peers in the neighborhood. And I worry about that in the Perrin Avenue area. I think the Perrin Avenue area is kind of one of those that's beset by multi-unit, or were houses that are now multi-unit places with apartments. I can point out to you at your convenience some buildings that I think are being deliberately let go with the possible intent of replacing them with something more modern. I don't know that. But I worry that in historic districts, that seems to be a trend. I also live in a house whose original structure was from the 1880s. And I don't want the neighborhood character to be lost into turning these areas into glorified apartment complexes. I think that is a problem throughout the city, most notably, I think, in the Perrin Avenue area. This specific demolition is, I think, an example of we can't look at it as just one structure. I think we do need to look at it as maybe a multi-effort in the church's area to kind of make things more of a campus. I noted Mr. Hadke was saying that the demolition of the houses at 13th and Columbia he was okay with that because it was going to go for a purpose of expanding the school. okay, but as I recall, those buildings were also, by the Wabash Valley people, I think, listed as being maybe unsalvageable, so they'd been sort of let go. That's my concern. I don't want there to be, an allowance for an owner that isn't intent on upholding his responsibility and maintaining his properties. Thank you.
The mic's yours.
Good morning. I'm Bill Baugh, 624 South Street. And I've watched for years what the Catholic Church has done to this community and is doing to it. One of the things it isn't doing, it doesn't talk to us. It doesn't interface us. It doesn't come to us. It brings its bulldozers and its lawyers. I would ask that you people request that the church meet with the neighborhood, and let's see what we can do. And rumors are what rumors are. The church isn't stopping here. They've got everything in the block below it, with the exception of Northside Music Company, which so far refuses to budge, and they're looking at everything above it. Now that's a rumor, but I think it's a rumor with some foundation to it. So I'd like to challenge the Roman Catholic Church of Lafayette, Indiana, to meet with the neighbors and let's talk. Thank you.
I'm Ivy Meyer at 22 McGrath Avenue. I'm the president of the St. Mary's Neighborhood Association. And as Bill Baugh was saying, we would love to meet with the church and discuss alternatives to this demolition. This is a beautiful neighborhood. We hate to see it lose its charm and its history. And yesterday I ran, Chris, you're not here, are you? I don't think so. Yesterday I ran into a tenant living in the home. There are 6 units, all full, and the tenants have been told nothing. And they're all thinking, oh, gee, 2 months, do we have to be out? And that's showing, again, the church is not cluing people into their plans. They're not negotiating and meeting with people and being open about this. So that's all.
Thank you.
My name's Susan Schechter. I live at 1001 Ferry Street, St. Mary's. I can see from my window. So I consider myself a community member, as well as some of the people have spoken. And so the larger issue here is community that I hear spoken about, and churches, especially the downtown churches, I think started as serving the community, the nearby community, and as automobiles have shaped our lives, the downtown churches, most of their parishioners do not live in the community, and I think that colors their decisions. They make decisions as kind of outsiders of the community, and don't. So we who live and see the church and hear its bells many times a day are not included in the decision making. And I do think it's the city who has the role of kind of then being a mediator between the actual community and the other actors who are not physically, residentially part of the community. So certainly I encourage the 60-day waiting period, and I encourage a broader discussion about our community and balancing the interests of residents with that of kind of folks who come in and go out, and it's a fine balance. But I think there are a lot of creative solutions that we can find, and as has been mentioned, what I've heard today really makes me feel very good that there are parishioners who have very strong feelings about making good community decisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
Might I ask the indulgence of the crowd? I have made notes of the dozen or so speakers that have presented opinions, emotion quite eloquently. I wonder if we might take a moment to hear from the petitioner about the proposed 60-day waiting period and perhaps plans for the structure or land use.
I'm ready to make a motion.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Mike Gibson. I'm the building committee chair for St. Mary's Cathedral. And as I understood from our first meetings, that this meeting was strictly about whether we were going to have the 60-day waiting period or whether we were not. I really appreciate all the comments today. We've taken note of them, but really have no comment to make today because we thought it was just going to be whether we waive the 60-day or not. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I think we'll just take one more public comment because it seems like the majority of the, I think we have a consensus of what the feeling is amongst the crowd, so go ahead.
I hope it's okay to have one more comment.
Sure.
I'm Mark Daniel Ward.
I'm Laura Ward, and we live at 1005 Pontiac Avenue in Highland Park. And 2 years ago, we bought the property at 1123 South Street, directly across from St. Mary's. And we bought that property there. It's a vacant lot, which is kind of unique in downtown. We bought that property hoping to build a house and to move into that historic neighborhood because we love the neighborhood so much. And it would be a tragic loss to lose this historic home that's such a part of the neighborhood. At this point, we're not at a place where we're moving and we're not at a place where we're building.
Yeah, but we're really interested to hear about all of the support and the possibilities for some economic support, maybe to save the building. And since we haven't built a home across the street yet, and the home is very much in keeping with the design of the neighborhood and the architecture and such, I think it's worthwhile to have a conversation about whether that home could be moved across the street. We understand that's a lot more economically feasible than moving it somewhere else in town, and
it would preserve the historic integrity of the neighborhood.
Right.
So definitely we would like to mention that in hopes of maintaining a dialogue with the church and know that there are viable options out there that could hopefully be pursued.
But we would certainly need some guidance on that and support from the community if we were to go for such a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I think at this time we'll go ahead and.
Would it be okay to ask a question? I don't have a comment.
Oh, certainly.
Could I also request that any letters from organizations be read into the record?
Sure. Yeah.
My name's Amanda Rumba, and I'm at 523 South 30th Street. And my question is just, if this 60-day waiting period is approved, how do we know that, are we going to have any sort of feedback that all of the options or what kind of other alternative options might be explored for this property? I don't know if that's anything you guys can answer, but that's just a question that I have.
The only thing this board can do is either waive the 60 days or uphold the 60 days. You know, I think that it's apparent that there's a lot of community interest in finding an alternative to demolition, and the parish officials are here. I think they've heard that, and I'm hopeful that there'll be some discussions, and I think not this board, but there might be other city officials that would help participate in trying to have some conversations about possible alternatives. But under the law, there's not much that the city can do other than, as somebody indicated, try to be a mediator, try to maybe gather some consensus. So the 60-day waiting period provides time for everybody to try to have input to see if there is a solution to the issue. But this board can only vote to waive the 60 days or uphold the 60 days.
I'd like to make a motion that we do not waive the 60-day waiting period for that address.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Thank you. And we also have two letters that I will, I actually can read them into the minutes if you'd like. And the first one is from Ariel, I will probably mess this up, Falardo. My name is Ariel Falardo, and I'm writing the Lafayette Board of Public Works today in regards to the proposed demolition of 1014 South Street by the Catholic Diocese of Lafayette. This letter is to express my vehement opposition to the requested demolition of this beautiful and significant historic home. The Catholic Diocese of Lafayette and all those that support them on this topic should be ashamed of themselves for requesting to harm the community in this way. As stated by the Wabash Valley Trust for Historic Preservation, this beautiful home was constructed in 1884 for local resident Myra Rose. The brick and masonry home at 1014 South Street is now outstanding local example of an Italian style and is particularly notable for the exquisitely detailed door and windows surrounds with floral motifs. The property is historically intact, surrounded by an original wrought iron fence and including a period carriage house at the back of the property. A partner in a local cigar factory, Meyer Rose, was a prominent and influential member of the Lafayette's early Jewish community. The home is listed as a contributing structure within the St. Mary Historic District, listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2001. Its preservation is important to maintaining the historic integrity of the St. Mary neighborhood. The historic structure is currently owned by the Roman Catholic Diocese of Lafayette in Indiana, who recently unveiled plans to demolish the historic home on behalf of the nearby Cathedral of St. Mary's of the Immaculate Conception. The home at 1014 South Street is both historical and architecturally significant to the Lafayette community and worthy of preservation and protection from demolition. I request the Lafayette Board of Public Works to refuse to grant the permission of the Cathedral of St. Mary of the Immaculate Conception and the Roman Catholic Diocese of Lafayette, Indiana, for the unnecessary demolition of this historic, beautiful home. The second letter is from Amy Dooley. Dear Board, I am writing to encourage you to deny the demolishment of 1014 South Street. This home and the carriage house are a great example of historical buildings for our county. Very few homes remain from their carriage houses intact. Thank you for your consideration. So those are the two letters that I received in my office. So, and I would really like to thank everyone that came out this morning. I mean, this is just a wonderful way and a great way that our community does work together and we listen to each other. And I too hope that within the 60-day period that there can be some resolution and both sides can come to the table and there can be a unity here. So thank you, everyone, and happy holidays to everyone.
I do have a question for John Collier. When does the 60-day period start?
It starts as soon as this board meeting is over.
Okay, so the demolition date on this letter then would...
Is February, what was it?
It says January 6, 2018.
Get that correct.
Oh, sorry, Scrivener's error. I
Big one.
apologize. Yeah, we'll fix that.
Yeah, we'll fix it.
We'll sign it later.
Yes. Okay, you are free to go if you'd like, if you don't care to listen to the rest of our business. We do want to hurt our feelings at all, so.
You're gonna hate me.
I know, you gotta go. Okay, well, we can maybe zip through this other side.
Well, I may not.
We've got 3. I'm good. I do sit
I think that
this board,
they
but
at least have it,
it's
yeah.
not a financial gain.
Is it an abstain?
I don't.
You know, with this kind of public turnout.
If we can be done at 9:50.
We won't be done at 9:50.
Huh?
We won't be done at 9:50.
You know, some of the other structures, you know,
No.
Kaiser said, oh,
You're
this
here for the
guy's,
nitty-gritty.
you know, not really so much. But this one.
Yeah, it says January 6th.
Yeah.
Well, if you can.
We can handle
All
this.
right. I just.
He's leaving.
Thanks.
It's not lunchtime yet, is it?
Make our students behave.
Okay.
And when I saw this one, I thought, well, that's the house I used to live in. Well, that's my only concern about what I heard today, not that there's anything we should be doing about it, but there hadn't been any dialogue.
Okay, Michelle, I think you're up. I think we'll go ahead and continue our meeting. Lafayette Housing Authority, we have agreement with the consortium in Area 4.
Michelle Reynolds, Lafayette Housing Authority Director. So this agreement between the Housing Consortium and Area 4 Development is for the H38 apartments. It's a 32-unit apartment community at 3791 Winston Drive. The apartments will be net zero or energy producing and affordable to housing at or below 60% of area median income. Area 4 Development is working with multiple service agencies to assist residents cross barriers to getting and keeping employment. That's including health, childcare, and transportation options. The consortium is awarding $160,000 of home funding to Area 4 for the project. The home assistance will be tied to 4 units, and it'll be forgiven after a 20-year compliance period. It has been reviewed by council. So we request approval.
Okay. Would you like to kind of speak to about the project a little bit? I know you guys have sat through a lot, and appreciate your patience.
I do have a little bit of material. We don't need that many, but I didn't know how many people would be here. This is a description of the project, and this are the indicators, program scope of work, so you can see kind of what it is. This is a very complex project. Just kind of a summary of the rest of those. Whoa, sorry.
That's all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. This has been a very complex endeavor, and it's going to be well worth it, I believe, when it's finished. You can see in the document that I gave you a kind of a summary. This is one of the Moving Forward 2.0 projects. It is net zero, so it will be all solar. I have met with probably 100 different people and groups locally to talk with them about how we can partner. For example, the YMCA will be helping us with child care. Ivy Tech will be doing some on-site education and work preparation for individuals. There will be selection criteria before that people move in, and I will have a staff person on site, and that person will work with families that want to get out of poverty and stay out of poverty by increasing their skill level and their education. And my person on site will work with them with a commitment that they will do what they need to do. I see this as being similar to Chatham Square, which I believe has been very successful from all accounts. It looks today like it did when it was built almost, really, if you drive by it. At any rate, the city has been kind enough to consider allowing us some money. It's not a little bit to the city, but some portion of what's needed for the property. It's 4¼ acres, I believe that's right, 4¼ 4½. At the end of Winston Street, there's a vacant property that goes all the way out toward Franciscan. It'll be back in there. On site, there will be a STEM center, which is an education center. There will be a tech center, a technology center. We will have community gardens, which Purdue Extension's working with us on that. for the family to teach health and nutrition and healthy food preparation. People that move in will be screened, I'll say very strongly. There will be a lot of screening done before they move in, including drug screens and ongoing meetings and work with them as we go. This is an example or a project that will be looked at from the statewide, and probably even draw national attention to it eventually, because it's very unique and innovative. And as a community action agency, I didn't actually introduce myself. I'm Elva James, sorry. I'm president of Area 4 Development and executive director of Area 4 Agency on Aging and Community Action Programs. So we do a lot of different things as an agency, and we're addressing poverty is one of those things, and that does not mean for us giveaways. That means giving opportunities for people to get out of poverty and remain out of poverty and to have a more productive life. We're also working with the Workforce Development Board, Workforce Development, and along with some of the advanced manufacturers like Wabash National, for example, have an agreement to work with them, and SIA, and we've met and discussed this with some others also. So I think it's a win-win-win project, honestly. I believe it will draw people who want to be successful, and I think it will improve the community overall. I don't know if you have any specific questions.
What's the timeline on this?
We are closing this week, and my partner, Jeff Ryan, is with Real America. They actually do the developing part of it. I do the amenities on site.
Yeah, the plan is to start construction next week, and it'll take about 13 months to build. It's a little longer than normal for 32 apartments, but because the complexity in the solar, the geothermal loop, it'll take a bit longer than usual.
And when we say solar and geothermal, persons living there will not have heat bills. It will be all solar, so there will not be utilities to pay, and that will be monitored over time to see how effective that is. So that's another unique feature. We've worked some with Purdue University as well on this project. So there's lots of different partners working with us. So it's going to be exciting. I think it'll draw a lot of publicity and attention to Lafayette, honestly. And it's out close to Payless and lots of other businesses in through there. So that's what this is, and it's $160,000, I believe, from the city, which we really appreciate. Also, I think $500,000 in development funds from the state of Indiana. It's a tax credit project also. We will need to be in compliance at least 15 years, and for some of it, 20 years. So this will remain and be kept up and be managed at least that long, and probably well after that. Because Real America has its own management company. They will be on site to manage this project. They will not build it and leave. They will be there, and my staff person will be there on site. So that's our plan. As I said, it's been very complex, especially the finances, because with 32 apartments, that's not a lot of apartments, that's not a lot of rent coming in, but yet there's a lot of expenses when you look at solar and smart apps, and I forgot to say, transportation will be on site as well. The two barriers to success are childcare and transportation. We are working on a contract with Enterprise to have cars on site. We were looking at electric cars. However, when you look at insuring electric cars, that's about $40,000 a year in insurance. We're not sure we can afford that part of it right now, maybe a little later, but we're addressing transportation needs also. Do you have any questions?
I have a question for the developer.
Yes, sir.
A pretty impressive project. And win, win, win. I wonder if we can add another win to that. And that is the jobs that are created in the construction of the project being targeted to those people that live in the community and are in need of developing a career, perhaps in the building trades. So I'm going to ask you, have you worked to integrate the local skilled construction workforce in producing this product and given them a jump start on those careers?
I will have to get back with you on that. I don't do the contracting on it. That's our construction department. So let me, through them, I will get a response for you. I know that we have a Section 3 requirement, which requires us to hire local low-income people, and so we will be fulfilling that. But I'll get back with you on the other.
Well, I'm going to suggest that you and I have a discussion about perhaps working with the trades and entry into apprenticeship programs which produce careers, not just jobs, specific to this project, and add that other win.
All right.
That's a good
Thank
idea.
you.
Any other questions? I think our numbers are on here. If you do have any questions, you can email one of us, call us. I'll be happy to answer any question that you have that I am familiar with the answer, or I'll find the answer. Thank you for your time.
All right.
I make a motion to approve the agreement.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, purchasing.
Morning, Dave Payne, Purchasing. I received a letter from Chuck Newton of Newton Oil, and he offered to once again offer the same contract that we've had with him since 2007 and keep the pricing the same. So I would recommend that you approve that contract.
All right, well, we can't ask for anything better than that, that's for sure. All right, do we have a motion to approve the Newton Oil contract for renewal?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, Lafayette Renew, Brad. We're going to try to finish up North Street here, huh?
Morning, Lafayette Renew. Brad Talley with Lafayette Renew. We're requesting permission to advertise for Phase 2 of the North Street reconstruction. This project will include removal and salvage of the old historic bricks, new pavers, sidewalks, curbs, driveways, ADA ramps. It'll look very similar to the first phase that went from Erie Street to 7th. This project will go from 7th Street to 3rd. The advertisement for this project will happen on December 7th and 14th with a mandatory pre-bid conference on December 17th and open bids on January 15th of 2019.
Great. All right, any questions for Brad?
Just one.
Nort's got one.
The original pavers were to be permeable and get water back into the ground rather than sending it straight to the wastewater treatment.
Right.
Apparently, that's been relatively successful.
Yeah, we've had great success with both the North Street and then the Brown Street paver project. The underground soil that we have is pretty permeable in general, and then when we add the granular material to that, we're really seeing a decrease in the amount of flow that gets into the sewer system, into the concrete sewers.
What do you expect Phase 2 essentially to remove in addition to what's already being? I'm sure that there's been some engineering study about that.
Yeah, I don't have that answer right at the moment as far as any calculations, but I can get that for sure.
Okay. Just a question of curiosity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the permission to advertise for North Street Phase 2?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, same sign. Okay, Mr. Jones.
Good morning, Mike Jones, Controller, with the exciting part of the meeting.
Yeah.
Before you have claims in the amount of $1,981,048.66, and I would ask your approval.
All righty, do I have a motion to approve the claims as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any additional questions or for Mike? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one last time for public comment. All right. Our meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.